1920s, there was a guy that had come down to Kentucky by the name of George Morrison. He was actually looking to drill for oil. That was kind of his thing. He was an engineer. He wanted to drill for oil. There had been kind of a small oil and gas boom in certain areas of Kentucky, so he came down here thinking that he was going to hone in on that action. But when he got here, after drilling close to 20 times, he came up dry every single time. Very discouraged by this. He wasn't planning on hanging out in Kentucky much longer until a buddy of his said, "Hey, while you're down there, go take a tour at Mammoth Cave." He said, "Yeah, a bunch of people keep telling me about that. I guess I'll go check it out." Now, at this point, Mammoth Cave has already been a tourist attraction for over 100 years. The first tour of Mammoth Cave was ever given in 1816. We were already world famous at this point. Lots of people knew Mammoth Cave by name, knew lots of its stories, and wanted to go see it. And so George, he kind of jumped on board with that tourism train, and he took a tour. On this tour, being the engineer-minded person he was, as he's walking, he starts thinking, we're walking really far in what feels like one direction. I wonder where we're at on the surface. So his tour ends, he comes back out, and he decides to go back in the cave, but this time with a compass. So as he turns around, he's about to go back on another tour. They say, "Sir, you can't bring that with you." He says, "Why can't I bring this with me?" "I don't make the rules. You just can't take a compass in the cave." This has kind of confirmed his suspicion. By Kentucky law, what you own above ground, you own underground. Mammoth Cave had been trespassing under people's property because the cave went under other people's land. George is figuring this out, and so he starts asking around with different people. He's trying to kind of get a gauge on what the other cave entrances around the Mammoth Cave area looks like. And then he starts to talk to another guy who actually worked at Mammoth Cave, makes a deal where he goes into the cave when no one's there, and he takes that notebook and he takes that compass, and he figures out that he was right. Mammoth Cave spans much farther than the Mammoth Cave estates owned. So then people start finding out about all these questions he's asking. They don't like these questions he's asking, and they end up running him out of town. He goes back to Ohio for a couple years, then comes back with a briefcase full of money. He's talked to enough investors that they have given him money to come down here and start marketing for cave. So he comes back to this area, quietly this time, starts poking around again, and then he hears that there was a lady whose kids like to play in a sinkhole because cool air came out of the rocks during the summer. So he takes 26 of dynamite, shoves it in that sinkhole, and boom, he's found cave. In exploring this side of the cave, about 2 years after he opened up that first place, he opens up this one. This little area right here was owned by George. This was the second entrance that he blew into this section of cave that he found. So this door was put here in 1923. But George started doing tours in 1922. He's got some cool caves. And he has this idea that he can market his cave really well. He puts this big billboard on the side of Cave City Road, which is the road you had to drive on to get to Mammoth Cave, that says, "Come see the new entrance to Mammoth Cave." So all these people start turning there. They're not going up the road to Mammoth Cave anymore. They're turning right there. Mammoth Cave gets real mad. And I'll tell you what they did about it inside. You all ready to go see the Mammoth Cave? Alrighty, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to walk to the furthest point of our tour and then slowly make our way back. Alright, so don't spend too much time in certain sections on the way in. You're going to see it again. Don't feel like you have to rush to take pictures because we're going to come even slowly back out. So once again, watch your head and watch yourself walking through here. But I will see you inside.
എനിക്കത് ഇതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് വിശദീകരിക്കാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ നേരിട്ട് തന്നെ കാണണം. മുകളിലേക്ക് ഓ
ഇവിടെ തുടരുതെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് ടച്ച് ചെയ്യാതെ പോകണം.
ഈ സൈഡിൽ
ഏതാണ്ട് അത്ഭുത കഥകളിലെ സ്റ്റോറികളിലൊക്കെ കേട്ടിട്ടുള്ള പോലെ ഒരു ഗുഹയ്ക്കകത്തൂടെ നമ്മൾ പോകുന്നത്. Unbelievable.
Geologically, we've just walked through some pretty incredible things. One of the reasons I wanted to pull you all the way over here first is so that I could show you what most of Mammoth Cave looks like, which is just bare limestone. Not a lot happening, no formations, very dry, nothing's dripping. This is what almost all of Mammoth Cave looks like. On top of all this limestone, we've got a really secure layer of sandstone and shale cap rock that acts like the roof above us. That's keeping water off of us. It's making sure that we don't have any leaks. We're nice and protected and dry. There's no sandstone over there. It's still affecting the rock in multiple different ways that you can still look at. But Mammoth Cave is not known for formations. It's known for being really big. We're currently mapped and explored at 426 miles long. No end in sight. We don't know how much of the cave there actually is. That's just how much we currently know of. Mammoth Cave was formed by water. It was an underground river that cut through all of this rock. This is all limestone rock. Limestone's calcium carbonate. So in other words, the calcium in this rock is the same type of calcium component in you, in your bones, in your teeth. This rock is made out of ancient marine life. And one time there was a shallow ancient sea around here, kind of warm like the Caribbean or the Bahamas. And as the marine life in that ocean was dying, it was settling to the bottom, decomposing, and the cartilage and the calcium, the hard exterior shells were getting kind of sludgified and then pressurized into this rock. We know that for a fact because of all the fossils we find in it. Horn corals, gastropods, ammonites, all kinds of crazy stuff. One of the coolest things that we find in these rocks are shark teeth. All kinds of different species of shark teeth. Sharks that were completely unknown to science until they were found inside of this cave. So pretty crazy to just think about how the rock is made in general. But then you get the water. The water making its way through the atmosphere picks up carbon dioxide. So it basically is putting bubbles inside of itself. Once it's got enough of that in it, it turns into an acid. So the compound of this water completely shifts from just water to acid, carbonic acid. So this acid makes its way through the cracks and crevices of the rock, trying to get to the lowest point of water it can reach. For this area, that's the Green River. So it's cutting its way through this hillside to get to the Green River on the other side of the hill. And in doing so, it's demolishing this rock in its way. It's completely dissolving it away. That acid is literally eating at the calcium components of this rock until it makes a big hole that it can flow through to get to the Green River. The water in Mammoth Cave is still level with the water of the Green River. The underground rivers that carved this cave never left. They just kept getting lower. So we even have tours like the River Styx tour. You can go see that water. You can still see the rivers that carved out Mammoth Cave present. They just spring out and they're tributaries of the Green River outside. So with all of that acid coming through here, I always like to pose the question, could I get anyone here to drink acid?
Yeah.
Yeah, what we drink on a daily basis, 100 times stronger than what carved this cave. So think about that when you pour it over your calcium-based teeth. Because if you don't brush them, you're probably going to get some cavities, aren't you? Yeah. So the same process that put a big hole in the earth is exactly what happens when you get tiny holes in your teeth. It's genuinely the same thing. But what happens over here is as water continues to seep in, this water is actually hitting a state of neutrality. So in the same way that if you were to leave a Coke open for very long, you go back to it the next day, it's going to be flat, right? The water over there that's making those formations is flat. It's not acidic enough to dissolve that water away or to dissolve the rock away. Instead, it's just picking up tiny pieces and molecules of the rock and rearranging it. So instead of dissolving it, it's carrying it. And that's how we get the different formations. So if one is hanging down from the ceiling, what is that called? Stalactite. If it's growing up from the bottom, what is it? Stalagmite. It's easy way to remember. A stalactite hangs tight to the ceiling. A stalagmite might reach the ceiling one day. If those two grow together, what do we call those? We call them columns. Columns. We call them a column. Sometimes people want to say they're pillars, but we're in the South here, and a pillar's what you sleep on at night. So we just yeah. But those are columns. If it looks like it's flowing down the wall, it's flow stone. If it's really tiny, looks like a soda straw, it's a soda straw. If it kind of bubbles up, looks like a cave grape, it's a cave grape. If it kind of strings along in a really thin line, almost looks like it has fat on it, looks like bacon, cavers get really hungry. George Morrison. They worked up this crazy lawsuit. They said, you can't keep using our name. You've got to take this billboard down. We don't want this. You're stealing our business. How dare you? This, that, and the other thing. And George said, okay, see you in court. He already had a plan. So for a second, I want you all to think. We're going to play a little role play game. You all have come on a tour in the Mammoth Cave Estates in the year 1922. And a man walks forward, and your guide turns around and says, who are you? You have no right to be here. And he says, it doesn't matter who I am. What matters is who I work for. And then he turns to you and says, ladies and gentlemen, I know you came on a tour with the Mammoth Cave Estates, but today I'm going to show you something bigger than your wildest dreams. If you turn around and follow this guy all the way back out, you're going to see the same stuff you've already seen. You're not going to get any more information. You're going to hear the same stories all over again. And you've got an 8-hour trek back out of the cave. Who on earth in their right minds would want to do that when you have the opportunity of a lifetime to follow me? I will take you to a section of this cave that no man coming in the historic entrance has ever seen before. Stalactites bigger than a person. A flowstone formation that looks like the Niagara Falls is frozen in rock for no extra cost to you. All you have to do is sign a piece of paper for me when we come out of the cave. Would you like to follow me today? Yeah, you do?
ചെയ്യുമെന്നൊക്കെ കേട്ടിട്ടേ ഉള്ളൂ. പക്ഷേ ഇതാണ് ചെയ്യുക. ഭയങ്കര
ഇതും നമ്മളെ ഫോട്ടോയിലൊന്നും കണ്ടാൽ നമുക്ക് അതിൻ്റെ ഉൾക്കൊള്ളാൻ പറ്റില്ല.
ഫോട്ടോയോ വീഡിയോ കണ്ടാലൊന്നും നമുക്ക് പിടിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല.
ഇത് നേരിട്ട് കണ്ടാൽ മാത്രമേ ഇതിൻ്റെ ഒരിക്കലും നമുക്ക്
അവിടെ കിനാവള്ളി കിടക്കുന്നു. നോക്കിക്കേ.
അയ്യോ ഭയങ്കര ഇതെന്നാ നമ്മൾ വീഡിയോ കണ്ടാൽ മനസ്സിലാവില്ല.
നമുക്ക് അവിടെ ഇരുന്ന് വീഡിയോ
ഒരു ഫീലും കിട്ടത്തില്ല.
Right there. You climb down right on top of the river Niagara, and they take your picture right there. They were just using lanterns. Yep.
And where does this water go now?
It's once it reaches the deepest level it can get to. So this water is just going to keep making its way down until it can't anymore.
ഭീകരം തോന്നി. ഒരു കല്ലിടിക്കില്ല. പാറ തുടരുത്. നല്ല മണ്ണ് പാറ ടെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തു. തല ഇടിക്കും. കിലോമീറ്റർ ഉണ്ടെന്ന് ഇതുവരെ കണ്ടുപിടിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. ഇനിയും കിടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. 10 കിലോമീറ്ററിലും കിടക്കാണ്.
അങ്ങനെയാണല്ലോ.
കിനാവുള്ളി കിലോയും അതല്ലേ കിനാവുള്ളത്
The dramatic aspect of the cave. We've talked about the rock aspect of the cave. Now let's talk about the living aspect of the cave. Crickets. You ready for this? All these guys over here.
ഇന്ന് രാത്രി ചീവിട് നിറച്ച് ചീവിടുകൾ
You probably walked by close to a million already and had no idea.
Oh, really? Oh, my God.
No, they don't bite, they don't sting, they just kind of hang out.
They eat.
They go outside to eat. And then whenever they get their bellies full, they notice they've been outside a little while. They're getting pretty hot. And their tummies start hurting. And they start looking for shade really quick. And they keep looking for shade quicker and quicker. And if they can't find any, if they can't find the cave, and they keep getting hotter and hotter and hotter, the gases in them will get so big, they'll explode.
Wow.
Boom. So they have to come back in the cave, but then they bring something really important into the cave. All this black stuff. Cricket poop.
Yeah.
All of this cricket poop has a lot of nutrients in it that help feed. So they've kind of got the upper hand right now, outsmarting their enemy over there.
Until the beetles figure it out.
And we're waiting for that to happen.
Look how big down in this. Oh my God.
Yeah, they can get pretty big. But one of the cool things too, though, back to the human aspect of the cave. When George Morrison won the upper hand with Mammoth Cave, they kind of hit this medium for a little bit. Until a group banded together and said, hey, we want your cave now. He said, who do you think you are? And they said, we are the Mammoth Cave National Park Association. Now, these people are trying to buy Mammoth Cave to make it a national park. Mammoth Cave sells, George Morrison sells, and 600 families in the area sell to make your 26th national park. Exactly 20 years after George Morrison found this section of cave, on July 1st, Mammoth Cave became a national park. So it's pretty cool how things can kind of come around, and George's story never died. I'm still down here talking about it. Mammoth Cave's story has never died. We're still in it talking about it. So all of these stories come together to play one of the biggest parts of this history, and all of the things coming together and working for each other instead of against. So if you guys have any other questions, I'll be more than happy to get those back on the bus or back at the lodge. When we get dropped off, we're going to walk across a black squishy mat that has soap and water on it just to clean your shoes off. But other than that, it's been a pleasure being able to end my day with you folks down inside of the world's longest cave. So thank you all so much for coming.
Yeah.